Hello, good afternoon. We are still waiting for the Czech foreign minister and then we will start. And sorry for the delay. Maybe one technical announcement due to the delay. Unfortunately, we might not have time for questions because HRVP has to catch the plane and he was supposed to leave about now. So he will just brief you on the results of the discussions and then we will probably have to run. And we will be joined by the Czech foreign minister now, who will stay, of course. Tak, ešte raz pekné popoludne, vítajte. Good afternoon, welcome to this press conference after informal meeting of the EU foreign ministers, chaired by High Representative Josep Borrell and hosted by Czech Foreign Minister Jan Lipavský. Both will inform you about the outcomes of the discussion, so I will hand over the word to High Representative, please.
During this informal meeting, yesterday and today, we have been exchanging views about an important number of aspects related with the Russian aggression against Ukraine, our support to Ukraine, and also our partnership with Africa. But let me start with the main issue, maybe the most concrete issue that we have been discussing, because since mid of July, we have seen a substantial increase on border crossing from Russia in the neighboring states. And this has become a security risk for these neighboring states. And in addition to that, we have seen many Russians traveling for leisure and shopping as if no war was raging in Ukraine. Member States considered that we are not business as usual. It cannot be business as usual. I want to remember you that there are already bans for specific individuals supporting the Putin's regime. But we consider that more has to be done. And therefore, we agreed politically, this is not a legal text, but it's a political agreement, we agreed that some has to be done. And therefore, let me try to summarize in concrete terms what we politically agreed on. First, full suspension of the European Union-Russia visa facilitation agreement. Full suspension. Until now, it was partially suspended for special collectives, groups of people, officials, and entrepreneurs, and now is fully suspended. This will it will significantly reduce the number of new visas issued by the EU member states. It's going to be more difficult, it's going to be longer, the process, and consequently, the number of new visas will be substantially reduced. And this is a common approach, and a common approach will prevent a potential visa shopping by Russians, going here and there, trying to look for the better conditions. Second, there is a common understanding that this will allow for visas to be granted on an individual basis, on a thorough statement of each individual case, and especially for specific groups of people. We don't want to cut ourselves from those Russians who are against the war in Ukraine. We don't want to cut ourselves of the Russian civil society. Third, we agreed that passports issued by the Russian authorities in occupied territories of Ukraine will not be recognized. Fourth, during the debate, which has been a long and constructive debate, some concerns has been raised about not the new visas, not the flow of new visas being granted, but about the stock, about the millions of existing visas. And there was a common understanding that this also has to be addressed. And this situation needs also a common approach. That's why we agreed to invite the Commission to look into this complex situation and provide guidelines. Six, the situation in the bordering countries is becoming challenging, and we acknowledge that these countries can take measures at national level to restrict entry into the European Union through their borders, always in conformity with the European Union Schengen Border Code. And finally, that this is a complex situation because we talk about the flow, talk about the stock of existing visas. We have to continue coordinating the implementation of this common approach. We also exchange on the wider context of the war in Ukraine. We agreed that we have to be prepared to face the negative consequences of these Russian aggressions against Ukraine, that unhappily it seems that is not going to end anytime soon. We have said before many times, I want to repeat it, this war is not only about Russia and Ukraine. This war is about the security and stability of the European continent as a whole, and more than that, it has a wider repercussion all around the world. We discussed about, as for example, the catastrophic impact that this war could have if Russia continues gambling around the Ukrainian nuclear power plants, especially in Zaporizhzhia. We discussed about the political, military, economic and humanitarian support to Ukraine, and we insisted that we remain united in our response to Russia's war and its malign global behavior. The ministers were informed about the debate on the defense ministers, and we agreed on accelerating work on the parameters for a European Union military assistance for Ukraine in order to make the decision about that issue as soon as possible. We also agreed on accelerating the work on the sustainability of the European Peace Facility in order to be able to respond better to the evolving needs of the Ukrainian army. And then we discussed about Africa. This was a different issue, but not so different because the war is affecting very much many African countries. Europe is the first trade investment, trade and development, the first partner on trade, investment and development, on peace and security, and we have to coordinate our initiative in order to work with the African partners because, as I said, the war in Ukraine and the fact that Russia is using food and energy as a geopolitical weapons, interference and disinformation and activities of mercenary groups is a matter of concern. Finally, we had an informal lunch with the foreign ministers of Ukraine, the Republic of Moldova and Georgia, what we call the associated trio. We discussed the situation on the ground. We discussed about Eastern partnership policy, which remains an important additional tool for all our Eastern partners to reinforce integration and cooperation with the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Minister, nech sa páči.
Thank you. Thank you. Budu hovořit česky.
I shall speak Czech. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad that I was able to invite my EU counterparts to Prague. I'd like to thank all those who helped with the organization so that the event took place as smoothly as it should. This was an open and constructive discussion. We confirmed that we are united. We are united in our policy. We agreed that in relations with Russia, we can't continue as before. For some months now, the Czech Republic has been saying that we need to review our entire policy towards Russia. The High Representative, Mr. Borrell, has already said that the main subject was our relations with Russia, and great emphasis was placed on visas for Russian citizens and the pressure placed on the border between Russia and Finland and the Baltic states, so Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. We do not issue visas, tourist visas for Russians. That's been true since the 25th of February, since the Russian attack on Ukraine. And we keep repeating the same point. I shall repeat it today. We keep saying that this is Putin's war. He's attacked a sovereign European neighbor. At such a time, we cannot entertain the idea of issuing tourist visas to Russians. Now, there are all sorts of questions about how exactly the EU is going to deal with this. Well, I think that today we've made considerable progress. There is a broad agreement about the suspension of the EU-Russia visa facilitation agreement. And the fact is that in the past there was a simplified procedure, and there's now a European agreement that these advantages should no longer be enjoyed by Russian citizens. The basis for that agreement was that we wanted friendly relations with Russia, but that's no longer the political reality today. So this is one important first step. So we were able to agree. And we've agreed that the Commission is going to look into the practical problems faced by the states, which for security reasons need to restrict travel by Russians on their soil. Now, there are all sorts of conditions and circumstances which have to be borne in mind here. Now, what about further questions? I'm very glad that we had this lunch on the fringes of our meeting. We had 3 foreign ministers from the associated trio, Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia. The aim is to help these countries to move closer to the European Union and to withstand Russian aggression. We shall not waver. We have to help Ukraine to defend its sovereignty, its territorial integrity. We shall not waver. Now, there was talk about imperialism, about cooperation with Africa. Now, above all, we emphasized that we have to fight Russian propaganda, the Russian narrative, Russian disinformation, the disinformation spread by Putin in this region. So there was talk of Russian neo-colonialism. We have to warn against Russian imperialism. African countries should not forget that Europe is paying a heavy price, and we have a lot of advantages at the same time. We have technology, we have sustainable solutions, we can work on scientific projects with Africa, on energy projects, projects to combat climate change. And all this is linked with the fight against Russian neo-colonialism. That's what we need to emphasize on the African continent. Thank you for your attention.
We try 2 short questions, please. First one, Czech television, Česká televize. Se páči. Petr Kozlíček, Česká televize, hezký den.
Good afternoon. Yes, the visa issue. Is there unity only on the basis of what you said? So there will no longer be visa facilitation. Is there any unity about harsher measures, tougher measures? How can we really restrict the issuing of visas to Russian citizens? And what do you say about national solutions?
You know, the member states, according with our rules, have a wide possibility of regulating the process of visa delivering and border control. So as far as they fulfill in accordance with the Schengen visa code, there is a wide range of possibilities for them. And according with the different situations, each member state, and that's what I said, we agreed that according with the situation, member states can take national measures on the process of delivering visas, national measures on the cross-border process, always in accordance with it could not be otherwise, in accordance with the Schengen code. But they have a lot of possibilities and each one will be able to implement them.
Yes, could I add the following? There is an understanding of the concrete problems faced by certain countries. Now, there are about 12 million Schengen visas which are valid for Russian citizens. So it's quite a complex question. There is no quick fix. We can't agree on a speedy solution to this stock. Now, we've asked the European Commission to look into this matter and to produce a draft which will be acceptable at all levels and by all parties, to all parties. We do need to take account of the problems faced by member states. We do need to cover certain areas. We need to realize that according to the Schengen Border Code, member states can already take certain national measures. These are regional measures, if you like, because these are practical problems which these member states have to grapple with. So people were very open-minded, and I emphasize again that we agree that we would look into this further. There are ways of dealing with this. But there are various ways forward, and we can't answer this straight away.
Yeah, Richard Josep, Ready for Europe.
Two questions, if I may, on separate topics. Firstly, on the visa issues. Going forward, what can potentially be the next step? Could you, for example, stop multi-entry visas to Schengen, or what is the next step in between visa facilitation, cancellation, and a full visa ban? And secondly, on a different topic, on Iran, on the JCPOA, you have now received the answers from Iran and from the United States. Can you update us what the next step is now to reach a full agreement? Thank you.
Yes, sure. You know, it's more than 3 weeks that I shared draft text as coordinator to the partners in order to conclude the Vienna talks. I got feedbacks from all delegations. I got comments from Iran and the US, which both I found reasonable. And to me, it's clear that there is a common ground, that we have an agreement that takes into account, I think, everyone's concerns, and that I am hoping that in the coming days we are not going to lose this momentum and we can close the deal, taking into account these reasonable comments that both parts, Iran and US, has been presenting to my text. And the other question, you know, I have to repeat the same thing. The visa facilitation agreement facilitates. This is cancelled, so no more facilitation. I'm not playing with the words, but it's a visa facilitation. It's done to facilitate. If it is finished, there is no more facilitation. So the visas will be more difficult to get. But it will still be possible to get visas, but in a much reduced number. This with respect to the new visas. With respect to the border control, the border crossing, certainly you need a visa. But a visa in certain circumstances may not be enough. And the member states have the possibility of controlling the border control, controlling the border passing. And this is upon them, according with their national competences, in the framework of the Schengen visa code. So what's going to happen? It's going to happen that the process of delivering visas will be a different one, much restricted, and the process of border crossing will be, as always, under the control of the member state that can decide to take measures in order to face the challenging situation that they consider in the framework of the Schengen Code. Nothing more, nothing less.
Okay, so this concludes the press conference. Thank you very much for coming. Sorry for the rush, and a big thanks to the Czech presidency. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck with your trip.